Hello, my name's Ben with His and Hers Alaska, and today I'm going to give you a little bit of a review of our stay at the Greenbelt Campground. Now, the Greenbelt Campground is conveniently about 12 miles outside of Washington, D.C. So if you're an RVer, this is a strong contender for a place to stay. Greenbelt Campground is a place for boondocking. Now, there is a dump station, and each campground loop has at least 4 water spigots. And conveniently for us, during our 8-night stay, we were able to link 2 of our sections of collapsible hose together and add a little more water to our tank without having to go to the dump station to get water. So that was a great benefit. This place is gorgeous. We're here in early November of 2015, so we're at the change of seasons. Some days were hot, some days were downright chilly, got a little bit of rain, but as you can see behind me, the leaves are changing. I'm actually walking during the magic hour. There are deer everywhere in this campground. I'm walking up on probably about 3 or 4, but it's also the rut, so there are some bucks chasing around the does. But you pretty much can't go for a walk or a drive without seeing a deer or multiple deer. Ooh, you're the brave one. Now that I'm done playing with the deer, I'm going to take a minute and touch on a few points that I've made notes about over this past week. Greenbelt Campground is in a national park, so there are pros and cons to that depending on how you feel about national parks. They do have a lot more rules compared to BLM land, so just keep that in mind. Now, this place is also very safe, and in the back of my mind, every time we visit an urban area, I tend to take safety into consideration. This park is massive. I can't really tell you, the exact size, but you really do feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. Right at the entrance to the park is the headquarters for the National Park Police. Now, I don't know about you, but knowing that the National Park Police or federal cops are right at the front door kind of makes me feel safer. But if you are afraid of the dark or being out in the middle of nowhere, those deer just spooked, this probably isn't the place for you because it can get a little spooky. The campground is only a few miles away from the Greenbelt metro station. Now, if you have your own car, you can drive down there, catch the train, and I strongly suggest catching the train to head into DC. It's not worth it. It only costs about $6, give or take, each way to get into the city, and you'll pay more than that for parking. Plus, you get to see some sights, and getting around the cities like that is so much easier on the subway. How were we getting to the subway? We do not have a tow vehicle, so what we do is rely on our bikes or Uber. Now, it's probably a few miles to the metro station from here, so we decided to Uber instead of bikes. But there are bike racks there, so it is possible. And I suppose you could walk, but when you're going into Washington, D.C., you're going to be doing a ton of walking already. So we just decided to take advantage of Uber and have them get us to the train station. Some thoughts on using Uber when you're staying at Greenbelt. Most people do not know where this place is in the area. We used Uber 8 times, and let's see here. 2 out of our 8 times, people were familiar with the park. One guy had raised his whole family here in the Greenbelt area and probably done some company picnics here, stuff like that. The other Uber, who was familiar with the place, it was actually her very first Uber. And she knew the park well because she grew up in the area. So, but keep this in mind when you do call for an Uber, because it's just going to show you as a little dot in the middle of a park. So make sure you give them the address here, 6565 Greenbelt Road. And what they'll do is they'll take them to the entrance of the park, and you are going to have to walk people through it. Because like I said, it's a couple miles back in here. and people just get discouraged. And if it's at night, there are zero lights back here. What we did was, when we requested the Uber, we contacted them with a text message letting them know the address of 6565 Greenbelt, because we had some Ubers driving on the freeway, which is, as the crow flies, what would look like the closest way to get to us. So after that, we learned, just text them the address and a few simple directions to get here. Now, once you're in the Uber, if they don't know the area, you also need to make sure they're going to take you the right direction. Our very first Uber was a young man, didn't know the area, great guy, but he was reliant on Google's navigation system. It cost us $24 to get to the metro station. That's a lot of money. But what it did was it made us hit the highways. So what you want to do is scout out. You can get right out to Greenbelt, go to Cherrywood, then make a left on the Metro Drive. You don't even have to hit the freeways. There's even another back way where you kind of slide through some hotels and you avoid the traffic by the mall. So keep that in mind. But once we knew which direction we were going, we were able to get the fares down to like $10, $11, which is a lot more reasonable. As I said earlier, we were here for 8 nights and we did not go into the city every day. But we did take advantage of the nearby shopping and mall with a movie theater to go see the latest James Bond movie. It kind of broke up the monotony of being in the campground and also only spending a few days going into DC. So that was a very nice resource, and there was a giant, is the name, grocery store right there in the mall, so you can get some supplies. I'm going to take a minute before it gets too dark here and touch on a few negatives to the park. Don't let these beautiful surroundings fool you. You are very close to the city. And I don't know if the mic's picking it up, but there's like a Harley taking off somewhere in the background. Don't be surprised if you hear lots of sirens and helicopters, because you are not very far away. And there is the faint roar of a freeway in the distance. If you have pets traveling with you, you need to know that there is a tick problem in this campground. It is worse certain times of year. From the signs around here, it looks like July is a very bad month. So try to, well, you got to make sure that you have your dogs on some type of a flea and tick medication, but also give them an inspection every day. And if possible, maybe try not to let them lay on the ground too much. And then you can really avoid the problem in the first place. But we're here in early November 2015. Dogs went out, we walked every day, you know, they went out potty multiple times every day, so we have not had a tick problem, but I have checked them at the end of the day to make sure there's no ticks on them. And one final note, these sites, they're not very large, so our 46-ish foot rig has to be in the D-loop, and the D-loop has a few pull-through sites. Most of them are like little turnouts. Let me show you. Here is one of the sites. You can kind of see where the leaves are gently pushed away. It's not very large. Like, you could fit a truck and cab over there. Not very many of the sites are level too. So if you're wanting to stay here, make sure you try to get one of those level sites. And for booking the final part, you can do the website. I believe it's called recreation.gov, and type in Greenbelt Campground, and they have a 1-800 number there. And when you do make your reservation, keep this in mind. You don't actually reserve a specific site. You're reserving access to the park. So you're not able to reserve site 155 like we had. You just kind of make the reservation, pull on in, and see what you can find. Well, on that note, I'm running out of daylight here and we need to get some dinner going. So thank you so much for watching, and again, we'd love to see you following our North American road trip. Right now we are in Washington, D.C. and gonna work our way south down the seaboard. And then we have the rest of the winter to travel the country. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Enjoy the ride.